We are still in Matthew. Matthew chapter 26. Is that where we left off, I believe?
That's my memory.
Yeah. Matthew chapter 26. I believe we did the first 30 verses of it. He went through the Last Supper, the last time we talked about, and Judas had went on to do, he sent Judas on to do what he needed to do. And so I think that's where we're at right now. Matthew chapter 26, we're going to look at starting in verse 31. Then saith Jesus unto them, all ye shall be offended because of me this night. Now remember, they just went through the ceremony of the Last Supper, or the feast of what we call the Last Supper. It's a feast of the Passover for them. And there's traditions he had, and he told them that he would be given up to be killed and all the stuff. So then he goes in and tells them that they're going to be offended of him that night. For it is written, which this is coming out of Zechariah 13 and 7, says, I will smite the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock shall be scattered abroad. Now, I don't know how much you know about the sheep, but you know, they like to be led. You can't drive them like cows. Those of you that's been around cows, you get behind them and smack them a little bit and try to head them, and that way you can drive. But now sheep, you have to lead them. You can't drive them. They just go all over the place. But if someone's not there to lead them to where they need to go, they'll just go everywhere. So that's what he's talking about. If you smite the shepherd, or you take the shepherd away from him, the sheep is just going to scatter. He says, but after I am risen again, I will go before you into Galilee. Then Peter answered and said unto him, though all men shall be offended because of thee, yet I would never be offended. Of course, Peter is the bolder of his followers, his disciples. He is the one that usually speaks up the fastest. And Jesus has had to correct him a few times. But don't we find ourselves in that same boat sometimes? Somebody says something, we don't think about what we say, and we say it real quick, and then after you said it, you may think about it a little bit and say, boy, I could have handled that a little bit different. I probably could have said that in a little bit different way. The IT guy we have at work, he's the same age I am, and he spent 23 years in the military, and he was a sergeant, and he was always the one giving the orders. So he's used to barking out orders and people following him. And sometimes he gets that way at work. Something's supposed to happen, and he'll say something, then he'll come back, he'll look at me and say, I didn't say that right, did I? Or what he's got a habit of is when somebody does something he don't like, usually dealing with another company, and they don't do what they say they're going to, or we need to get them to do something, you can't get them. He'll fire off a pretty nasty email to him, pretty sharp. He's a Christian guy. He's not going to do anything bad, but the sharpness of his tongue, he'll forward that email to me, and he said, read through this, write it in how you would write it, and then forward it on to him. Because he knows that the drill sergeant, he says, comes out in him sometimes. But don't we do that sometimes too? And I think it's sometimes a spiritual battle that we get into. I know it is for me. I get mad, I get upset, I say something, and boy, after a while, you kind of regret the way you said it, how you said it.
Wish you hadn't said it.
Or wish you hadn't said that. Yeah.
You can't take it back once you say something.
No.
It's there. It stays in people's minds.
So Peter has this here that's even recorded that we're still reading about it today. One of the moments that he probably wished that he could take back. Not just what he says, but his actions right here afterwards. I'll never be offended of you. And Jesus said unto him, Verily I say unto thee, that this night before the cock crow thou shalt deny me thrice. 3 times you're going to deny me, Peter, before the day breaks.
It kind of tells me that he knows what's on my heart before we speak anything. He knows what's on my heart.
I think so, and I've had that conversation a few times in the past with people about prayer. Well, why do I need to pray if God's already know what I'm going to pray for? He wants us to be obedient. He wants to see that we're willing. You know, before we can get a blessing from God, and I truly believe it, before we can get a blessing from God, there's always an action required on our part. Maybe we need to help someone else that's less fortunate. Maybe we need to even ask for it. He tells us to ask for it. Even though he knows what's in our heart, what's on our mind, what it is we need before we even ask him for it. He knows it. But he wants that action from us of going through and asking him for it.
What happens on this earth is for us. There's not anything. God doesn't need anything other than our praise. He wants that. He wants that. He may not get it, but he wants it.
That's all he wants.
But as far as anything else, he don't need that.
Yep.
But all these things we come to him to get, well, we can't get it worthless.
Yeah. So here's Peter. Jesus already knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, he stood there and said, I don't know this man.
And Peter said unto him, Though I would die with thee, yet will I not deny thee. Likewise also said all the disciples. All of them said, Jesus, we won't deny you. All right. I could just imagine Jesus standing before him telling them this, and they're all taking time, their turns, and all of them saying, No, Jesus, we won't deny you, we won't run from you, we won't. Well, we'll see. Then comes Jesus with them into a place called Gethsemane, and saith unto his disciples, Sit ye here while I go and pray yonder. Now, there's a lot of this Bible I don't understand, but I know what yonder is. That's over yonder. And he said he took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, James and John, his inner circle, and begat to be sorrowful and very heavy. Then said he unto them, My soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even unto death. Tarry ye here and watch with me. Jesus was going to go over to pray, and he wanted them to pray with him. Aren't we like that too? Folks, when we're going through some of the worst things that we go through, and there's nothing that we can do, that we can do to help someone, we can pray for them. Now, Jesus knows there's nothing that the disciples can do for him. There's nothing they can do to help him, because he knows what he's going to have to go through. He's already told them that I'm going to be put to death. He already told them that they're going to come and get me. And he's already told them that you're going to scatter out and deny me and leave me alone. But what can he do for me? I want you to pray with me. There's been many a times I've stood here in the church and asked people to pray for me. There's been times I've called people up and had them to pray with me on the phone because I needed it. That's what Jesus was asking. Pray with me. And it says, and he went a little further and he fell on his face and he prayed. Now, the yonder over here that they were talking about, they were saying it was about a stone's throw away. Well, I can't throw one very far, so it wouldn't be very far to over yonder. But Jesus went over a little further and he fell on his face, praying, saying, "Oh, my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as thy will." Jesus knows that when he left the splendors of glory, what he's going to have to go through. Folks, it is something for us to read about when somebody's done something, or you hear about something that's going to happen, but it's entirely something different when you actually have to live it and go through it. Jesus knew what the plan was. He knew that when it would be when it was going to happen, as he was going through, he was going to have to feel the same pain that we feel, to go through the same suffering that we go through, and all of us go through it. It's a lot to think about it, but it's painful when you have to go through it. The Grammys happened a while back. Now, I don't listen to any of these award shows. I just I think it's terrible to even watch them. But one of the singers got up there and made a statement about no one is illegal when you're on stolen ground. Meaning, she was saying that the ground that they're holding all these ceremonies on, the things, it was stolen from the Indians, is what she was meaning. So how can we be illegal if we're living on stolen ground? Now, here's the thing. She lives in a multi-million-dollar estate. And a certain tribe of Indians in California says she's living on their tribal lands. So now they've gotten a hold of her and said, "Hey, if you feel that way, how about giving us our land back?" And matter of fact, a very slick attorney I saw on the news this evening right before I came down here says that since she's made that confession that they're living on stolen ground, that he has drafted a thing up for the Indian tribes that they're going to sue her and say, if you feel, you've made that, they say that the land you have is stolen, we want to buy it. Now, you think she's going to give it back? See, it's easy to say things, but it's harder to follow through.
Self-exaltation.
The same thing happens with us sometimes. Yeah, I'll pray for you, but do sometimes we forget? Or are we just saying it just to be saying it? Or somebody's going through something, we know they're going through it, and boy, we say, well, we'll help you whatever we can, but do we ever do anything? Never think about it anymore. Do you really? We went around and visited Connie and Larry the other day, and Connie said that she's not been able to cook. Of course, she's had that knee replacement. And she said, Larry actually got up and fixed her a pot of beans the other day, and I was thinking, I wonder how many from here that took something around for them to eat. We have good intentions, but do we follow through? Here's Jesus getting ready to go through the worst thing imaginable. We can imagine how much pain it is, but we don't know it because we didn't go through it. Here's Jesus saying, I know this was the plan. I know this is what you want me to do, but Lord, I really don't want to do it, does it? If it's possible, let this cup pass from me. But not my will, Lord, thine. And he cometh upon the disciples and findeth them asleep. And he said unto Peter, What, could ye not watch with me 1 hour? Peter, wake up. Could you not even stay awake with me for 1 hour to sleep? You're asleep. You can't even pray with me. He says, Watch and pray that you enter not into temptation. See, there's something different about the air that's around them right now. There's something different about it. I think that when Jesus was praying all this, he knew, he started to feel the enormous pressure of the sin that he's going to have to, all the things that he's going to have to go through. I think the worst part of it is when he's dying on the cross, that his Father turned his back on him so that could be, he couldn't watch it be done. He knows what he's going to, Peter, pray and watch that you don't fall into temptation. I think the old devil was trying to talk to Jesus, that you don't have to really do this. You don't have to go through that. And the heaviness of all of that coming down on them, they couldn't even pray with him. Couldn't stay awake. See, because the spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. Boy, I feel that way a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel that way so much. Sometimes I feel like I'm so drained and I'm just out of energy. And I mean spiritually too. I'm not, not just physically, but spiritually. Boy, sometimes I had a talk with Brother Mike about that just today. And sometimes it just seems like I can't pick the Bible up and read it. I just can't get interested. I can't find anything to read. I can't find anything to study. I have a hard time getting sermon prep. But that is when you're battling with something. The old devil is trying to fight you. Folks, we all go through those periods in our lives. No matter how long you're on this road, you're going to go through those ups and downs. Because the flesh is weak, even though the spirit is willing. But the flesh is weak. Then he went away again a second time, praying, saying, O my Father, if this cup may not pass away from me, except I drink it, thy will be done. Again, the second time he has went away and prayed. And in the text it says that he prayed sweats just like drops of blood. I think he was in that much agony and that much pain, knowing that in the flesh he feels the same way we do. He's going to have to go through all this pain. And he came and found them again asleep. They're asleep again. For their eyes were very heavy. And then he left them and he went away again and he prayed the third time, saying the same words. Folks, that was serious if Jesus is praying the third time, knowing what he's going to have to go through. Then cometh he to his disciples and saith unto them, Sleep on now, and take your rest. For behold, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is betrayed in the hands of sinners. The Romans, the hypocrites that he called, those that plotted against him. He called them hypocrites earlier, and they're plotting against him. He didn't call them the religious leaders. He called them sinners. Then he says, Rise, let us be going. He says, Behold, he is at hand that hath betrayed me. we'll go just a little bit more. It says, and while he spake, lo, Judas, one of the 12, came, and with a great multitude, with swords and staffs from the chief priest and the elders of the people. Isn't that the list of the sinners here? Did you see the list? A great multitude with swords and staffs from the chief priest and the elders of the people. Now he that betrayed him gave him a sign, saying, whomsoever I shall kiss, that same is he, hold him fast. And forthwith he came to Jesus and said, Hail, Master, and kissed him. And Jesus said unto him, Friend, wherefore art thou come? Now that's a question he asked him. Don't you think he already knew, because he already told Judas to go do it? Then come they and laid hands on Jesus and took him. And behold, one of them that were with Jesus stretched out his hand and drew his sword and struck a servant of the high priest and cut off his ear. Was it Malcolm? Was the one he cut his ear? That cut his. Peter was the one that cut his ear off. It doesn't say here, but in other parts of the gospel that tells this same story, tells that it was Peter that did it. Then said Jesus unto him, Put away thy sword unto its place, or his place. For all they that take the sword shall perish with the sword. Now I see that in a couple of different ways. I was thinking of David and how he was a man that had the sword in his hand. Remember when he wanted to build the temple of God, he told him he couldn't because he had blood on his hands. I was thinking of that when I was reading this. So he's saying that if you're a person of war, if you're the one that's battling, it's going to be hard for you to do things like this. I also thought about it spiritually. Just think about this spiritually. If you're one that battles, maybe against your brothers and sisters, maybe you're someone that sows discord and strife or something, boy, it's going to be hard for you to do things for the Lord if you got that sword in your hand. But now if you got a sword in your hand and you're fighting the enemy and you're fighting for the Lord, folks, boy, you can get a lot done. It depends on, is he with you or is he against you? On whose side that you're fighting on. But he's telling Peter, I didn't make you a man of war. You're a fisherman, not a soldier. Put it away. Knowest thou that I cannot now pray to my Father, and he shall presently give me more than 12 legions of angels? Peter, I don't need you fighting for me, because if I wanted to escape this, I very easily could. Don't you think that if Jesus all of a sudden changed his mind and says, I'm not going to do this, the old devil, the old adversary that we have, would have left him alone and left him to whatever he was, and he could have went away. But no.
What do you think they thought about him when he ripped the heel that ear?
That's that would be something.
If you're taking somebody down there to do something to him, and he does something like that in your presence, does not make you sit back and think, who is this guy?
Yeah. Well, if you go to another gospel, I think it's I don't know if it's in Mark or it's in Luke, maybe even in John, where it talks about, he asked who is they after, and he says, we're come after Jesus, he says, I am he, and they fall back. If you think about that, even the fear, with the attention that's in the air, and with all of that he's getting ready to go through, boy, he still showed that he had the power to do what needed to be done. But yeah, how would you be one of the soldiers that comes out? And Malchus, if you read, he was a leader of the Romans. We studied a little bit about him in one of the classes I had. He was considered one of the high-ranking Roman soldiers, maybe the leader of the ones that came out to get Jesus even. It doesn't say that in the scripture, but he would be high enough that he could be the leader of it. And all of a sudden, you're reaching for Jesus, and old boy Peter, he just slices your ear off, and Jesus picks it up, puts it back on. What do you think he would be thinking at this moment? See, he was high enough within the Roman that he probably knew a lot about Jesus before he ever went out there. Probably getting all the reports and keeping track of what's all going on. And here he sees it for himself, or feels it for himself. He says, in that same hour, said Jesus to the multitude, "Are you come out against me, a thief, with swords and staffs, for to take me? Are you coming out with your swords and your spears and your military action to come and take me, a peaceful man?" They probably heard him, his messages. They've probably seen him in town. They've probably experienced the crowds and the multitude and how he's showing love. And here you come out like a big, mighty military army. He says, "I sat daily with you teaching in the temples, and ye lay no hand on me." They was afraid of the crowd, just as it was back when they said that they would try to take him, but they was afraid of the multitude. That's the reason they was looking in secret to find a way to take him.
One place he escaped, he said, "My time is not yet."
Yeah. But all this was done that the scripture of the prophets might be fulfilled. Then all the disciples forsook him and fled. I think that's a good enough place to stop for tonight.
What did they just say a few verses before that? Well, not me.
Oh, just a few verses before that. Oh, no, we wouldn't do that. We would not leave you. We'll stay with you to the end.
But
it's easy to say that, but it's hard to put it in action.
Don't judge it too quickly.
No, I wouldn't judge them too quickly either.